Am I the a-hole for sending a recording of my ex asking to open our relationship to her parents? I, male 26, broke up with my girlfriend of 4 years, Mary, female 27, about a month ago because she asked me to open our relationship. It is / and always will be a major line in the sand for me, something that I have opened up to her about in the past. We've had a great relationship, and the only thing that stands out, and the only reason it stands out now is because of this situation, is she progressively started making a lot more sexual jokes about some of our shared friends over the last few months. Some involved her being with them, and others were three-way jokes, etc. I won't lie, I played along a little, but I consistently made some joking response along the lines of, "You're more than enough for me," and or, "I don't like sharing." Never took any of it seriously because why would I? Until she asked, and I found out / realized that she was probably trying to gauge my response and see how open I was. Mary asked when we were getting ready for bed about a month ago, kind of bluntly. I was scrolling on my phone and she was getting changed, and goes, "If I ask you to open the relationship, would you?" This might sound super corny, but it was like I had an out-of-body experience and all of the above hit me at once. All the jokes and comments so far made sense, in a "she's trying to butter me up to the idea" kind of way, and went really numb for a second. To her credit, she must have seen how freaked out I was and asked if I was okay. I pretended I didn't hear her and asked her to repeat herself, and she was really hesitant too. Kept saying she didn't say anything and only repeated it when I insisted. Then I went to voice notes, set it to record, and put my phone down to talk to her. I don't remember much of it, just that I tried to stay calm and keep her talking. But the note is just over an hour and a half long, and it feels like I'm listening in to a conversation that happened between two strangers. She trickled truth all the way through it, and ultimately stuck to the idea that she hadn't been cheating. She didn't have any one person in mind, but had been fantasizing about mutual friends and people at work, and seemed to get the idea that they'd be open to something if she asked. A lot of it is her being defensive and me trying to needle information out of her without it escalating into an argument. A lot of me placating her and trying to make her feel comfortable enough to keep talking. The apartment is mine, and I suggested we take a break a few nights later, so she went to stay with a friend for a weekend. By the next Monday, I'd spoken to some of my friends and my sister separately and come to the conclusion that we were done, and suggested she started looking for somewhere else to stay. She was upset, but didn't really argue and had the vast majority of her stuff out and at her parents' at the end of the week. So coming 2 days ago, her mom reached out over WhatsApp to say she was disappointed in how I handled everything. The message wasn't really framed in a way that she was reprimanding me, more that she wished we could have worked it out. She then added me to a group chat with her husband, ex's stepdad, and they both kinda tag-teamed me, saying that we could work it out. I was making a mistake and that I shouldn't overthink things. I eventually got it out of them that my ex had fed them a very vague story that we had broken up because she'd wanted to take the next step in our relationship, and that I'd freaked out. We'd argued and she'd been effectively kicked out. Her stepdad was leaning on the fact that he thought I was more mature than this, and her mom just kept repeating how disappointing this whole situation was. So I was pissed. In the heat of the moment, I told them that I had a recording of our conversation that I could send that would explain what she actually meant about taking the next step. I initially tried to email it to them, but it was being a ball ache, so I eventually shared it via Drive. In the meantime, I took a few screenshots of my ex and I's messages, ones where she made jokes and comments about sex with our friends and a lady from her office, and sent them along to that shared group chat. I haven't heard back since. Again, it's been 2 days, and I don't feel as vindicated anymore. A good few of my ex's comments were about other women, and I'm freaking out because I don't know how, if at all, open she's been about her sexuality with them. I also think I shouldn't have engaged at all, and I shouldn't have felt the need to prove my innocence to either of them. Am I the a-hole? I've checked in with friends and over social media, and it doesn't look like there has been any fallout. Also, my ex blocked me a week ago before I spoke to her parents, so I can't really contact her without going in person. And at this point, is it too late to even give her a heads up or check in? Edit. To address a few points I have seen in multiple comments. We don't live in the US, and we have no laws on recording private conversations on the books. I'm not proud of doing it, but it wasn't illegal. Mary and I had several mature, calm conversations about what we both wanted out of this relationship. Mary wasn't sure if she wanted to stay and kind of admitted to self-sabotaging by opening the relationship. Mary and I have been friends since we were 11. Her mom was my coach when I swam competitively, and our friend group and families are very close and intermingled, so she was wary about what would happen if we went on a break or fully broke up. I was not trying to punish her for being open to polyamory. Now for the top comments. You're defending yourself because she couldn't be honest and unleashed her parents on you. Any results are her responsibility, not the a-hole. I don't think she intentionally sicked her parents on me, but I also feel like I don't even know who she really is at this point. I also don't like the feeling of just making things difficult for her, even though she's clearly still telling half-truths. Maybe she didn't intentionally and specifically tell them to contact you, but the fact they did means she gave them a story implying you were at fault at best. The fact they could just randomly message you means you were close enough to them that you could and did comfortably speak to each other. Combining these facts make it entirely predictable that they would contact you in this situation. Whether by intent or lazy incompetence, it still comes down to being her responsibility. If you had contacted them, I'd vote very differently, but you didn't. Yeah, let's not play dumb here. She was covering her cheating butt with her parents. Honey, why did Opie break up with you? Mom, basically because I was asking him permission to cheat. Permission to cheat? Yes, I asked for an open relationship because I wanted to go bang other dudes and some girls too. That's the reality she was not going to tell her parents, so she used her ex-boyfriend as the villain and scapegoat. But you, have to give her the benefit of the doubt, even after she nuked her own relationship of years because she wanted to sleep with other people. Well, she should have ended the relationship and go do it, not expect he was going to be there waiting for her to sleep with other guys and be happy about it. You're not the a-hole for feeling the need to defend yourself against your ex's lies to her parents, but sharing the recording and screenshots was probably not the best approach. I don't think they would have believed him otherwise. I don't think so either, but now that I have a clearer head, I can see how I could have handled this better than I did. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my 23 female boyfriend 24 that it's his fault if he misses our flight and that I'll continue without him? My boyfriend and I planned a trip for the end of the summer months ago. Last night, we were still trying to decide how we'd get to the airport when my mom told me that she could take us before work. I told my boyfriend who lives 30 minutes from my house to be at my house no later than 6 a.m. for my mother to drive us to the airport at 6:15. He promised that he would be there around 5:45. This morning, he was nowhere to be seen or heard from until around 6:20. He told me that his phone fell and he didn't hear it. By then, my mom had to leave and take just me or she'd be late to work. I told him that he should drive to the airport or get an Uber. His mom decides that she will drive him an hour to the airport since he was too late for my mom to take us. He gets to the airport a little after me and I checked in our bags. We get to the bag drop and he realizes he does not have his ID. His wallet is at his house, which is about an hour from the airport. I tell him that I'm going to continue to TSA and go to the gate. His mom is going back to get his wallet, which will obviously take a while. I tell him that I'm getting on the flight regardless, and that if he misses it, then it's a result of his own mishaps. He then begins to ask me what to do if he misses it. I tell him that he's an adult and should figure out a way to make it to our destination by contacting customer service. I planned everything for the trip down to the flights and travel arrangements. I feel like at this point, I've done all I can to do to ensure a successful and smooth trip, and I don't feel as if it's my responsibility to do damage control for him if he misses the flight. There is no refund for the Airbnb that we split the price for if we do not go. Am I the a-hole for continuing without him? Not the a-hole. Boyfriend needs to grow up and act like an adult. You've done all the work up to this point. All he had to do was show up on time with a proper ID to make it through security, and couldn't do that. He needed mom to bail him out. If he misses the flight, it's a good opportunity for him to learn about what consequences are, and to sort out his own issues for himself. For Opie, his reaction will tell you a lot about him. If he does miss the flight and has to figure things out himself, does he get mad at you or pout? Or does he own up to his own mistakes and accept responsibilities/apologize for causing these issues? I agree. First, it was the not waking up on time, and he couldn't even remember to double check for his wallet? I give him grace, but that's just something I can't understand. Traveling with children sucks. Not a-hole. Traveling with children is less hassle than traveling with this guy. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to pay child support after my wife cheated with my older brother? I never thought my life would end up like this, but here we are. I've been married to my wife for 5 years. After we tied a knot, I didn't really keep in touch with my family much. It wasn't intentional, we just drifted apart. My wife and I were focused on building our own lives, and that's what mattered to me. A few months ago, my world came crashing down. I found out my wife had been having an affair with my older brother. The betrayal was like a punch to the gut. I didn't even know how to process it. Everything I thought was solid in my life was suddenly shattered. But it got worse. When I told my mom what happened, she didn't react the way I expected. Instead of supporting me, she took my brother aside. She actually told me to get over it and said that this is just how life is sometimes. Hearing that from my own mother was like salt in the wound. Since then, I've cut contact with my brother and haven't spoken to my mom much either. Now, my wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, has come to me with another bombshell. She's pregnant and says the baby is mine. Here's the thing, I can't even be sure. We were still being intimate even as things started falling apart between us, so it's possible. But after everything she's done, I don't know what to believe anymore. She's already talking about how I'll need to pay child support, saying that I have no choice if the baby is mine. I'm not stupid. I know what my legal responsibilities are. But I can't bring myself to just accept this without knowing for sure. I want a paternity test before I commit to anything. But even if the baby is mine, part of me feels like it's so unfair that I'm stuck supporting someone who betrayed me in the worst way possible. My mom says I need to be a man and just move on, but I'm really struggling with this. How can I be expected to just accept all of this like it's no big deal? So, am I the a-hole for wanting to confirm that the baby is actually mine before agreeing to pay child support? And even if it is mine, would I be wrong for feeling like I shouldn't have to be tied to her forever after what she did? Now for the top comments. You need to confirm that the child is indeed yours because of the events circulating around your ex's pregnancy. However, if it is yours, then you need to pay the child support. And also don't hold grudges against your kid. It's your kid after all, and your kid has nothing to do with the horrible decisions people around you have made. You're not the a-hole here unless you don't pay the child support. I'd start the procedures for paternity test immediately and start talking to a lawyer about what you should be doing and not doing. I know everything's hurting, but you're gonna hurt a lot more in the pocket, on top of your mental turmoil, if you do not talk to a lawyer and get things rolling. Also, because your brother presumably shares DNA with you, he needs to be tested too. The difference will likely be very small, unless your mother has a surprise coming. Might be why mom was so okay with it. She's probably a cheater too. Get the divorce first, then go with her to the doctor to prove she's pregnant, then have the tests done to determine paternity. First things first before making any decisions. Personally, I wouldn't even talk to her about anything until after the baby is born. Get started now on your new life, and say goodbye to mom, your brother, and your ex. Good luck. Married women sometimes can't get divorced while they are pregnant. It's also often given that the husband is legally considered to be the father of any child born during a marriage. So it's lawyer time to get the necessary info for OP's state and state situation, assuming US. There are a bunch of people in here that don't know what they are talking about, including OP, in thinking that not paying child support is an option if the kid is his, and mom winds up being granted primary custody. OP needs to talk to a lawyer because they can clear up a bunch of the stuff that he is worrying about, some of which is likely needless. Source, I'm a lawyer. Also, who continues sleeping with their wife after they learn she cheated and their marriage is falling apart? God, what a dumbass. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my cheating ex-girlfriend that I'm not responsible for her abortion? I, 30 male, had been dating Anna, 29 female, for a few years. Now, our relationship wasn't picture perfect, but we were happy, or at least I thought. Well, when she told me she was pregnant, I was surprised because I always wrap it up and make sure to pull out. Double caution, I know. So I was confused, but I guess it can happen. Well, she told me she wanted to keep the baby. I am financially secure, and although it took me by surprise, I surprisingly found myself open to the idea of raising a child with her. Well, a few weeks go by and I catch her out in a lie and find out that she had been cheating on me for months with someone. She comes clean. I was furious and immediately questioned whether I was the father. Though, to be honest, it wasn't even that. I just didn't want to have a kid with a cheater, even if it was mine. I only want to have a kid if I'm going to stay with that person and fully trust them. My trust was broken. She cried and begged me to stay, so I told her I would maybe consider it if she aborted. She then cried again and said she wanted to keep the baby. But I said, you either choose this baby, who probably isn't mine, or you choose me. Well, she chose me and aborted. And then tried my best to move past what happened, even going as far as to go couples counseling with her. But I still couldn't move past it. So I told her, in spite of my efforts, I can't trust her and that I'm breaking up with her. She freaked out and said I forced her to get the procedure, that I'm evil, all sorts of names. The thing is, I never forced her, and she cheated. And that baby wasn't likely mine, so it's not my issue. Though even if it was, I would be with a cheater, which I can't accept. Am I the a-hole for this? I tried to reconcile with her. It didn't work. You should have just left in the first place. Agree. Now he has certainty that she won't come after him throughout her pregnancy, as I bet the affair partner would have done a runner when he got the news. I'm betting he already had, which is why she came back to OP for support. Ultimately, she's the a-hole. However, you knew what you were doing. I don't believe for 1 second that you were ever planning on staying with her. You were looking out for yourself, because there was at least a possibility that you were the father. As you said, you didn't want to have a baby with someone who you had no plans on being with. Therefore, you played a game and convinced her to abort. The decision was ultimately her own, but you knew what you were doing. I fully support tricking women into getting abortions if they cheated, so you're not tied to this person for the next 18 years. Hey, as long as you own it, I'm just saying he needs to stop acting like he didn't have a plan. Just own it. I won the lottery and it ruined my relationship with my boyfriend and my family. I never thought winning the lottery would be anything other than a dream come true. But here I am, with more money than I ever imagined, and it feels like my life is falling apart. A few months ago, I bought a lottery ticket on a whim. I almost forgot about it until I saw the numbers on the news. I couldn't believe my eyes. I had won $600,000. At first, I was in shock. I called my boyfriend John and he rushed over, equally ecstatic. We were both over the moon, dreaming of what we could do with the money. But the dream quickly turned into a nightmare. It started with John. He began making plans for the money without really consulting me. He wanted to quit his job immediately, buy a luxury car, and invest in risky ventures. When I suggested we take things slow and maybe talk to a financial advisor, he got defensive. He accused me of not trusting him and said I was trying to control everything. Then my family got involved. My parents, who I've always had a strained relationship with, suddenly wanted to reconnect. They started dropping hints about their financial struggles and how they could use some help. My sister has always been jealous of me, outright demanded a share, saying she deserved it for all the time she supported me. It felt like they were all looking at me differently, like I was just a bank to them now. John became more distant and started spending a lot of time with his friends. He'd come home late, smelling of alcohol, and would argue about his spending habits and his new friends who seemed to only care about our money. The final straw came when he suggested we invest a large sum into a business venture his friend was starting. I said no, wanting to be cautious, and he exploded. He accused me of being selfish and not believing in him. The argument was so intense that he stormed out and didn't come back for days. During that time, my family's demands became more aggressive. My parents hinted that they were entitled to the money because they raised me. My sister called me greedy and accused me of abandoning my family. I felt trapped and overwhelmed, unable to make anyone happy. When John finally returned, we had a long, painful conversation. I realized that our relationship had become toxic, revolving around money rather than love and mutual respect. We decided to break up. He moved out, taking some money with him as a parting gift, and I felt a mix of relief and sadness. Now I'm alone with my fortune, but I've never felt poorer. My family is barely speaking to me, and I've lost someone I thought I'd spend my life with. I've hired a financial advisor and a therapist to help me navigate this new reality, but the emotional toll is immense. Winning the lottery was supposed to be a blessing, but it turned into a curse. I wish I could go back to the way things were before, when life was simpler and relationships were genuine. I just needed to get this off my chest. Now for the top comments. You got the blessing of realizing who the people in your life truly were. $600,000 is not something to sneeze at, but after all the inflation, it's not the life-changing kind of money it used to be. I wouldn't even call it a fortune anymore. Pay off some debts. Treat yourself to something that isn't going to continuously drain your money. Nice houses and cars do this, as do subscriptions. And invest in yourself. I literally said out loud, quitting your job for $600K that isn't even yours? When taxes will take a large chunk of that. Not smart. He's definitely be one of those guys who goes bankrupt 3 years later. 3 years? You're being generous. Yep, I knew a guy who won $311,000 on a scratcher. He got about $150K take home. He blew it all in 8 months and had nothing to show for it. Not even a reliable car. I told him not to tell anyone. Think he listened? Nope. Told all sorts of people, and just like I predicted, they all had their hands out. Money changes things, often in ways we don't expect. It's a tough lesson, but now you know who truly has your back. Focus on protecting your mental health and finding real connections that aren't driven by money. I mean, I'm not sure what to do with the money in the first place. I'd love to put it in an S&P 500 or something similar, but it seems quite high at the moment. I will never buy luxury/sports cars or anything, but I'm not sure what to do with it, since I think I could lose $600,000 as easily as I got it. The S&P 500 always seems high. You should put it in an S&P 500 fund and forget about it until you are retirement age. You will have tens of millions. Also, stop telling people how much money you have. I think it's a double win. You can tell your family to get lost and found out about your partner's true colors. I would be so happy. Take a trip to somewhere you always wish to go. Have fun. Enjoy your life as it is now. I mean, I guess that would be lovely. I'll ask some friends if they want to join me in my adventure. Thank you. Please talk to a financial advisor first. I'm not saying don't enjoy the money and take a trip, but get a handle on the whole financial picture, including investment plans, before spending a bunch. Also, I'm guessing since you already gave your boyfriend a chunk of money, and considering his entitlement, I give it a very short amount of time before he is back saying he spent it all and you owe him. Please do not fall for that. If you think you can't help yourself, then get that money invested after talking to a financial advisor and tell him it is tied up, and Bank of Moose is forever close to him. Next story. I'm ruining the family vacation because my parents won't pay for me. I've been trying to help my mom over the past few months plan a family trip. Throughout this process, my mom told me that she and my dad probably couldn't afford to pay for all of us to go. Mom, dad, brother, me, and boyfriend, which is fine. I told her she shouldn't be expected to do that since we're all adults with adult jobs and could pay for our flight and share of the lodging. Obviously, she was receptive to that. So fast forward to today, and we're about to book the flights and travel. So we're on the phone talking through how much everyone's flight was going to be. Since I hadn't talked to my brother personally, I asked if he was cool with how much the tickets were. Her demeanor immediately changed to nervous laughter, and she said that he didn't offer to pay, and so they were going to pay for him. And just because we offered doesn't mean he has to pay. For additional context, my brother is a civil engineering consultant, and he makes really good money. If I am being honest, I sort of suspected this, so I wasn't super surprised. However, I played it cool and said, "Oh, didn't realize he wasn't going to be paying for his portion." Predictably, my mom and dad launched into this defensive ramble. "Well, it's your fault you offered. We were going to pay for you until you offered." A lie. They also said I was acting entitled to their money, which is a recurring bit for them anytime money comes up. There's a lot of nuance to that, but suffice it is to say, they've always been very hard and financially strict on me, but very easy on and spoil the crap out of my brother. Anyway, they know this bit ticks me off, and they succeeded yet again. But this time, I just felt something snap in me. So I just told them if that's the way they feel about it, then maybe we should just call it off. And I don't want to be around people who think I'm just trying to mooch off them. Then I just hung up. Now they're texting that I'm selfishly ruining the vacation because I'm jealous and are calling me entitled. Maybe I am entitled. Maybe my parents just like my brother better. I don't know which is more true, but I'm a little glad I'm ruining the family vacation. Let them go have their vacation. You and your boyfriend spend the money you would have and take a vacation you both will enjoy. Lol, the thing is, they all fight with each other on vacation. It's so crazy. I was just going to go to be part of the family, but I don't think I will be doing that this time. How miserable is your family? What's the point of even going on vacay to argue? Just stay home and do it for free. LMAO. I'm sorry your parents suck. You deserve better ones. Well done for standing up for yourself. I would continue to ignore their guilt and go on a holiday that is about you and your boyfriend with no arguments. But remember, they spoil your brother. But when the chips are down, the chances of your brother taking time to help them out are slim. You and you alone will be expected to step up and sacrifice for them. Maybe now is a good time to think about what you want for this relationship going forward. It is absolutely alright to take massive steps backwards and not engage if that is what you want. Never let anyone guilt you into anything that you don't want to do. But remember, they spoil your brother. But when the chips are down, the chances of your brother taking time to help them out are slim. You and you alone will be expected to step up and sacrifice for them. This is so freaking real, you have no idea. They have even said as much. My mom's brother was the favorite of my grandparents too. He never got in trouble when he did dumb things, but my mom was grounded for 2 years for getting an attitude with my grandmother. He got away with everything and was constantly rewarded, even after he tried to end my mother. In the end though, he ran off with a rich woman, got married, and completely ignored our side of the family. Even when my grandmother was dying, my mom ended up being the one taking care of her until her death, which took a huge toll on her and her health. My uncle wouldn't even give my mom 1 day off and care for her himself, and we couldn't afford to hire a nurse. It was hell for my mom, and my uncle didn't even go to her funeral. Don't let that happen to you. If you're able to do so, you need to put your foot down right now and tell them in advance that you see how you're treated compared to your brother. You see who they obviously love more, and because of that, he will be the one taking care of them as they age. You have to let them know not to expect you to take care of them. They chose their favorite child a long time ago, and they're going to live with that choice for the rest of their lives. I see what this exact situation did to my mom after she was made to care for my grandparents until their death. She's still not okay, and it's been 8 years. Don't let that happen to you. Tell them now. Last story. Got kicked out and now my family wants me to come back. 21 male here. I got kicked out of my mother's house end of August and left on rather bad terms. I have not exchanged a single word with my mother since then. For context, I have a full-time job since graduating a few months ago. My mother is a single parent and I am an only child. So since I was 11, it's pretty much just been us two in the house, with grandparents visiting every now and then. Though not a psychologist, I'd say she is a textbook case of narcissistic personality disorder with some bipolar disorder thrown in the mix. Though good luck to anyone who tries to convince her to get clinically evaluated. Honestly, I can't even blame my father leaving her. I remember as a little kid always feeling sorry for him as she threw things at him and around the house, while screaming so hard she shook. I just wish I chose to leave with him. I didn't because he always worked overseas, and I wasn't familiar with him at the time of their divorce. Once he left, all of that became targeted at me. I'd frequently get kicked out of the house for a night at a time, and come back in the next day to her acting as if nothing ever happened, and things seemingly returning to normal. If I didn't leave, she'd try breaking down the door of whichever room I was in. There are barely any doors left in the house that don't have holes from her shoulders slamming into them. She got physical with me, shoving, hitting, brandishing knives, until I started fighting back once when I became physically strong enough. She'd do this all while screaming that I was a mistake. I was the reason for her cancer due to the stress I caused her, etc. After leaving for college and coming back, it all started over again. I put up with her abuse until one day I kind of just decided I'd had enough and packed all of my things and left. I have since cut contact with her, and my extended family have been telling me to move back in with her as she doesn't have anyone else. Damn if that's my problem. I told them they weren't there to see how she treated me. I told them that I would consider going back if she ever apologized, and I can rest easy knowing that's something she'll never do. For the first time other than leaving for college, I feel like so much weight has been freed up. I'm renting an apartment with a few close friends, and going out with them after work is quickly starting to become some of my favorite memories. My only regret is the effect this is having on my grandparents. They seem heartbroken that I've left, and the fact that their daughter is living alone. She can live in with your grandparents. They can take your place as they seem to be so okay with that life. Please let them know how happy you are for them bringing her back into their fold. The grandparents are also implying that the mother's happiness is more important than OP's, which it isn't. He doesn't have to sacrifice his happiness and well-being in order to make his mother and grandparents happy. What gets me is that she is really horrible to my grandparents as well. They don't speak English and often need help with running errands, and she always brushes them off and berates them for being useless when they visit. So they've been coming less and less. So I guess I resent them too, for knowing how she is and still wanting me to make up with her. Like, why do I have to be the one to reach out to her and make things right after she kicked me out? Kudos to you for pulling the trigger, man. These types of people need to hit rock bottom before pulling themselves up, and nothing can be solved until they realize what a horrible parent/partner/daughter they are. Thank you for your kind words. There's a reason she has not been able to find another partner for sure. She'll even get mad at whoever she's dating if they want to visit their kids from a previous marriage. I think I just finally realized that she needs me more than I need her, and I'm fine with letting her struggle on her own now. Their relationship from now on needs to be on your terms, and you're absolutely okay to keep that boundary, no matter who says what. Honestly, an apology isn't going to heal narcissism and BPD. I wouldn't suggest you return regardless. It's not a safe or healthy environment for you, especially since you're probably barely into your own healing journey. I think the fact you're considering going back with her if there's an apology is evidence you're absolutely not ready to re-engage in a relationship. This really sucks, man. I can only imagine how much it sucks. I wish you all the best with love, peace, and healing. Thank you for the advice and kind words. I think I would definitely make her going to therapy a condition of any chance of reconnecting. Perhaps stupidly though, I'm still afraid to bring it up because I know she'll get super angry at the idea, which doesn't even make sense because I'm out of there and she can't hurt me anymore. I think I'm just so used to trying to not set her off that it's still difficult for me to try and have these types of conversations with her. I actually realized somewhat early on in high school that my own personality was becoming similar to hers. I lost a lot of friends over it and even a relationship. So that was definitely a wake-up call for me. And I think that's the point where I realized that my mother's approach to life was the wrong one. It's been difficult trying to become my own person, but I like who I am now. At the end of the day, I think one day I would still like to be on good terms with her, as she is my mother, and a person she is when she's not having an episode is quite fun to be around. But not at the expense of myself.
Am I the a-hole for yelling at my grieving mom? My 17-male mom, 46, wanted to reconcile recently. I lived with my grandparents since I was 8. My dad died when I was 2, and I just have some pictures of but no memories with him. She remarried when I was 5 and immediately dumped me on my grandparents after her first new baby. Every attempt to contact her from my side was blocked, like I never existed. I'd stalked her on every social media platform until someday I just gave up. She had 2 children from her new husband, who I don't consider my stepdad. A few months ago, she had a car accident in which she had survived, but all her children died. I never attempted any funeral for them, or had any relationship as siblings, as they were just strangers who happened to share part of my DNA. However, a week ago, my grandparents called me down to the kitchen, and she was there. It was totally weird to see her after this long time. And before any words were exchanged, she cried and attempted to hug me. Of course, I pushed her away and asked what she was doing. My grandparents stayed around but said nothing, while my mom cried and said that I'm the only one left of her children. My temper was never so heated like before, but I yelled at her that she hasn't any children left and already lost every one of them. My grandpa had to drag me away to my room to prevent me from doing something stupid, and she left our house after that. Since this week, I really cannot sleep and I've been thinking about it a lot. Well, my hatred of her just flamed up again. I really regret what I said to a woman who just lost her children. My grandparents just said they're not surprised how I reacted and they can't blame me for that. But maybe they just say that because they're close to me. That's why I want to ask strangers. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. She dumped you for her new family and then expected to pick you back up as if nothing had changed between you two when they were gone? She has no right to a relationship with you. I think your reaction was entirely understandable, and while I understand why you feel bad about it, you shouldn't. Just jumping on this to say this is unfortunately more common than you think. There are plenty of stories on here that are similar, and maybe you can find some comfort in knowing that your reaction is completely understandable and borderline warranted. Not an a-hole. Like that story where the OP was dumped on her grandparents so her parents could focus on her terminally ill sister. 7 years later, she passed away and the parents came back to 19-year-old Opie like, "Your sister has died, so we got time to be your family now." Opie told them that they only have one daughter but she died, and pretty much told them to go pound sand. Only difference is that Opie's mother never planned on coming back for Opie at all. She just came back because her other kids from her new marriage died, and was like, "At least I have a spare kid." I don't blame Opie in the slightest for telling her she effectively has no kids. She brought it upon herself as far as Opie wanting nothing to do with her. Not an a-hole, Opie. Good God, I am so sorry. She treats you like a damned spare tire. I am glad your grandparents are there to support you. I hope that sometime in the future you will realize that you're worthy of respect and love, even though your mom did not give those to you. Good luck, Opie. Exactly. What happens when she has other children again? No good mother abandons their children because they got married. Save yourself future headaches and go no contact with her. She doesn't deserve you. You sweet baby. Don't lose a wink of sleep over this. She ambushed you for her own selfish needs, and years of pain and hurt poured out of you because she never would let you express it before. It does not matter what she just lost. She was your mother and you lost her. You don't owe her anything. Next story. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my parents after they confessed that I'm the product of an affair? I'm 23 female and moving out of state to attend college soon, and I couldn't be any more ecstatic. Unfortunately, I just had a massive bombshell dropped on me that has flipped my head upside down. A bit of background. I have triplets brothers that are 33 years old, my mom 56 female, and my dad 60 male. Growing up, my siblings and parents have always been my biggest support system. I love them all dearly, and they've always been there for me whenever I needed someone. This makes the whole realization even crazier because I just don't know what to think. Earlier today, my parents came into my room and said that they needed to talk to me about something. Both of them, especially my mom, looked petrified. My mom was tearing up and shaking. My mom pretty much just blurted out that my dad is not actually my bio father. My mind went blank, and I honestly thought it was all just a prank. My mom told me that 23 years ago, she and my dad were going through a lot of marital issues. She reconnected with her old high school boyfriend, and they ended up sleeping together. They only hooked up once, and 1 month later, my mom found out she was pregnant with me. She confessed everything to my dad, and she also informed my bio father. My bio father was a massive substance user and wanted nothing to do with me or my mom. My dad then decided to forgive my mom, and they wanted to work things out together. Unfortunately, when I was about 3 months old, my bio father passed away. So my dad decided that he would take over the role as my father and legally adopted me when I was 2. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I kept waiting for them to tell me this was all a joke. To make things even more shocking, all my brothers have known about this since I was 2 years old. My parents made them swear that they would never tell me the truth, that it had to come from them. My mom kept crying and saying that she wanted to tell me sooner, but there never seemed to be the right time. I admit I snapped, cried and yelled at them. I just couldn't keep it any longer. How could you all keep this from me? Why tell me right before I leave the freaking state? They said they didn't want me to feel any different, or potentially feel guilty about what happened to my bio father. They said they wanted me to have a happy childhood, but they just couldn't hide it anymore, especially now that I'm moving out. I stormed out and went to go stay with a friend. Now my parents have called and begged me to forgive them, but my brothers are all pissed at me and said that I'm being way too harsh on them. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They chose to do it before you left as to avoid having to deal with the consequences after. This is an easy logical leap, but I doubt it is accurate. Have you ever had a secret? It's truly hard and terrifying to divulge, and so easy to put off for one day, then the next. Then, the sub exposes you to a lot of tales of really poor humans. But I think this is more likely a case of flawed people letting their love and personal convenience blind them. Opie is not the a-hole. That kind of news is a betrayal and incredibly emotional. However, she needs to search her heart, because a bunch of strangers don't know her parents. Sounds like she has a mother who made a huge mistake and a father that chose her and stepped up for her whole life. If the realities of her life are otherwise, then that must be dealt with. No matter what, I hope Opie takes advantage of whatever counseling services exist at her new school. Ultimately, Opie should know this doesn't change who she is. Take time and space to process, but she has an incredible opportunity and this should not ruin that. Have a great time in college, Opie. You are gonna be fine eventually. Not the a-hole. I'm adopted, and I couldn't imagine being told that way, although I would have figured it out because I'm a different race. I'm of the belief that you tell your children early in a way that they can understand. You don't lie to your children to save face. I'm sure you would have loved your adopted dad just as much if you had always known the truth. Yep, same here. I feel for Opie as a fellow adopted person, but I was raised knowing it. I can't imagine how messed up I'd have gotten if my parents waited to share that with me until I was an adult, and tried to gaslight me on the memories I have prior to my adoption for decades. They waited until you turned 23, long past the death of your bio father, and made your brothers not say anything towards you. Even if you had a wonderful childhood, I would be beyond upset to find out that I was born out of marital problems. Also, they wait until you are right about to leave. Of all times, did they need to wait that long to drop a bombshell? You are not the a-hole because of not necessarily how for not being able to have a relationship with your dad. It wasn't their fault he died when you weren't even in kindergarten yet, but for how they handled it. I don't think they should have waited till you basically were flying solo to tell you something this big. And your mom had a waterworks when she should have expected her own daughter to snap. You were basically born because of them nearly divorcing and your mom's infidelity. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife to get over it, knowing that she's struggling with infertility? My wife, 38 female, and I, 42 male, have been trying for a child since we tied the knot 6 years ago. We haven't had any success. We have had failed IVF treatments and miscarried again and again. This has obviously taken a toll on my wife. I own a business, and a year after my wife and I got married, I hired Noah, 26 male. Noah has a fiancée, Taylor, 26 female. Noah and I get along great, and he's like a second son. I have one from a previous marriage, and we have a good bond. Taylor is also a great girl. She's very kind, and they seem very happy in their relationship. Now, my wife has always had some sort of animosity towards Taylor. I'm not sure why, she just seems to get very angry around her. Early on in meeting one another, Taylor tried to talk to my wife, but she would always brush her off or ignore her. My wife has also told me she thinks Taylor is too stuck up, only because she comes from money. Over the weekend, we all attended a gathering and we ran into Noah and Taylor. Now, Taylor is a very slim girl, and her stomach's usually flat, but she looked very bloated. She sat for a majority of the party and was only drinking water. She also wasn't as dressed up as she usually is. Noah had talked to me a few days prior asking me for tips on being a dad. It said they were expecting. So I knew this, but it slipped my mind to mention it to my wife beforehand. A few of the other women at the party asked Taylor if she was pregnant, and she said yes. They then asked her how far along she was, and she said she was only 11 weeks, but they were expecting triplets, so she looked a lot bigger than she would had they been having one. My wife lost her mind, to put it lightly. She started accusing Taylor of always trying to one-up her, and of being a stuck-up witch. Taylor started sobbing, But I quite literally had to drag my wife out of the party and drive home as Noah and the other guests were trying to console Taylor as we left. To say I was livid would be an understatement. We went back and forth, and I told her that she would need to get over whatever hatred she has towards Taylor, because she has done nothing wrong, and that our fertility issues is not the fault of another person. She called me an unbelievable a-hole, and we haven't spoken to each other since. I talked to Noah and Taylor earlier today, and they said they were fine. Taylor said she understood but didn't mean to upset my wife. She also said that she's just very sensitive and emotional. I told her it wasn't her fault, and that I hope she has a safe pregnancy, and that they could reach out to me for any help. My wife overheard this and called her sister. And now they're both calling me an a-hole for siding with Taylor and Noah. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Your wife needs some help. She seems to be under a lot of pressure and taking it out on the wrong person. I'd say the jealousy is eating her up at a young pregnant married woman. Logic isn't your wife's friend at the moment. If she is taking fertility drugs, that doesn't help. They make you crazy. I remember being on them and everything was so over the top emotional. I was in them and after trying for a long time, taking temp, tests, pain and sadness, and that feeling that you're somehow a failure as a woman. The young woman from my church got pregnant right after she got married, and I was heartbroken. I didn't begrudge her the joy and excitement of her pregnancy, but I was sad and jealous, and it's likely part of it. Not the a-hole. Your wife really needs some counseling. She has a huge broken heart with everything she's going through. Taylor, unfortunately, was the outlet of her pain. 100%. Infertility is extremely stressful and emotional, speaking from experience. My fertility doctor usually recommended therapy to me after I fell apart in the doctor's office after my first failed treatment. Therapy and support groups helped me enormously. It doesn't make the pain and grief go away, but it gives you tools to learn how to deal with it. OP definitely needs to, sensitively, bring up therapy or some type of support group. It sounds like his wife needs an outlet for her pain. Not the a-hole. But has your wife had any therapy? Trying for 6 years with losses and failed IVF would be incredibly hard. And the fact that he has a child with another woman could also factor in somehow too. Not the a-hole. How would it even be possible to take a side in someone else's pregnancy? It would have been helpful for your wife to have time to prepare, but she will, from time to time, be present when a pregnancy is announced. I would strongly encourage your wife to speak to someone about her reaction because that sounds pretty over the top. Grief is a strange and powerful thing. There's no shame in needing help to navigate it. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for returning to older family traditions and not keeping any of the newer ones? This has stirred some controversy in my family and I need some honesty on this. I got married recently, eloped, and my husband and I are now expecting a baby together. We tried to create traditions for our family that are a mashup of our favorite traditions from the past. For me, those traditions were ones from when my mom was alive, and those are the ones I reflect on fondly. But the problem is, my dad remarried and those traditions were replaced with new ones. And everyone in the family, my 2 younger siblings, step-siblings, half-siblings, dad and dad's wife, prefers the newer ones. And they're hurt I didn't take any of those traditions into my new family. It only came up because one of the traditions was pregnancy related, and I said no to taking part in it. They asked why, and I said it wasn't a tradition I was fond of or wanted to carry forward into my family. Then my dad starts asking if I'll stop doing all the others. Christmas bouncing around everyone's houses and dinners, huge extended family photos done by every individual family with an extended family, etc. And I said yes, that we were only doing our favorites from our childhoods and mine were all from when mom was alive. He said it would break his wife's heart, and my siblings/half-siblings/step-siblings, because I'm rejecting the traditions we carried as a family. I said I wasn't going to cut my actual favorite traditions again just for their feelings. He told them, and now they're all upset in different degrees of mad at me. His wife said I might never have wanted her to be my other mom, but I should treasure the family and the memories of the whole family by carrying some of them on. I explained to her it wasn't meant as a rejection. I just always wanted to keep those old traditions alive, because it's bringing part of my mom through. She told me that might be important to me, but I should think about how they all feel, and how it seems like the family we call created was never anything but second best. I told her I still got to see all of them, but not my mom. And I bit my tongue, because it is kinda true the blended family was second best. To me, it's like, of course I would prefer the family where my mom was alive. This is still an ongoing issue. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. This is a pretty damn easy one. You do you. If you don't like something, you have every right to stop practicing it. You are in control of your life, what you follow and what you choose to do. If people chose to get upset or offended by your actions, that's their problem. I feel like Opie's dad is just trying to stir up drama in the family. He is angry that his new wife clearly never placed the mom the way she did for him, and feels bad that Opie is making that apparent now, calling it right here. You're an adult. You don't need anyone's permission to live your adult life the way you choose. You get to decide entirely for yourself what traditions you wish to create and maintain. Not the a-hole. It's not real clear to me. Are you saying you are no longer willing to attend holiday dinners or take part in family photos that also contain your own siblings? If so, I can see why they are upset. I won't go from house to house December 24/25/26 anymore. If we can meet up around Christmas and celebrate, that's fine. But no moving around or having everyone just drop in over those days at random. And I won't be paying for photos of the whole bunch. I might still take part in the ones at my dad's. But in general, I'm not going to my dad's wife's family to take part, and I'm not going to pay to have them taken for me and my husband either.